Yeah, so Stella's on the call. I just want to say hi, Stella. Sorry, but we didn't couldn't find you for a while. Are you okay to talk for a bit?
Yes, yes, I am.
Now, I just wanted to before I ask you to speak, can I just show you this clip? I think it was one of the most incredible events of the year. Yeah, I took that from Real Media, their YouTube channel, and you know that day in October when I was one of those who could see me just quickly there on the other side of the bridge. What a fantastic day! And you organised something that showed this level of support for Julian. I mean, were you nervous before that day that there wouldn't be that support?
I guess I was. I felt like it would work, but obviously there were some setbacks because there was a rail strike the same day, and there were some people who had said, just call it off, postpone it, and so on. But we went ahead, and it was an enormous success. And for everyone who was there, and I know many of the people in the audience here were there, there was such a wonderful mood. The action itself was such an expression of solidarity and of coming together to achieve what we had set out to achieve, which was to send a strong message in front of the Parliament that Julian should be freed. And people came out in spades, and it was fantastic, and it was so encouraging, and it really left us with the feeling like we need to do more actions like this, and especially after all that time through the lockdown and so on, where there was a question whether people had lost the gotten used to not going onto the streets and so on, but not just with Julian, but there's been such an amazing climate of protest and mobilization in the last few months, last 6 months, I'd say, that has really, and it also feels like they're not atomized movements. I don't know if others have the same impression, but there's a lot of, I think, crossover between the different causes and solidarity and knowledge that's shared.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can see a lot of likes on Twitter or retweets, but it's sort of like, it's all that virtual digital world, but to actually see it in person and the spirit of it, I mean, it was like people very energized, that energy coming across to everyone else, and everyone else feeling, wow, isn't this great? We've got so many people. And it cheered everyone up, must have cheered you up a lot. And then subsequently, there's been good stuff happening with Latin America, and you've been out of this country and found support elsewhere, haven't you?
That's right. So we started over the summer. We had Julian's brother and father traveling around the country, uh, in Scotland and up north. Um, I think they did something like 40 screenings in different cities, around uh, around the UK, and that has been a very sorry, I should say screenings of Ithaca, the documentary that follows Julian's father and myself, as we have been trying to bring awareness to Julian's case. And we started filming, I think, in the end of 2019, up until mid 2021. So it's a very kind of intimate portrait of our fight to free Julian. And so we've taken this film around the country, and I went to several screenings, and we had a Q&A afterwards. And this was a very effective, I think, a very effective vehicle for campaigning. And it brought new audiences in that got engaged into the with the issue through the personal, and the personal was a way to educate on the political dimension. And we're going to keep doing that. We're going to try to bring the film to other parts of England, do university screenings and also private screenings. People can watch the film actually online on ithaca.movie, Ithaca with a K, like the island Ithaca with a K, ithaca.movie, and you can host private screenings. And yeah, we'll continue to try to do screenings with Q&A afterwards around the country, to raise awareness and for people to, to get introduced to this fight through the human dimension.
But I mean, the political leaders in other countries have sort of shown, some have spoken up in support of Julian. I mean, that's especially in Latin America. Can you tell us which countries are actually making a stand for Julian?
Yeah. So in Latin America, we have an extraordinary kind of grouping of presidents who are calling for Julian's release. It started with AMLO of Mexico, Lopez Obrador in Mexico, and he has offered Julian asylum and has said that he's raising the case with Biden, calling on Biden, urging Biden to drop the case. And then over the last couple of months, the WikiLeaks editor-in-chief has been traveling around together with Joseph Farrell, also of WikiLeaks, to meet with presidents. And it's not that easy to do a tour of Latin America and be received by presidents, but that's how important Julian is to these Latin American countries. I'd say that Latin America is the continent that has been most engaged with understanding the WikiLeaks material, making the most of the analysis, and kind of defending Julian as an enabler for the public's right to know, and for the kind of democratizing capability of journalism at its strongest. And so they're very supportive of Julian's release, and that's why the president of Colombia, who's a very interesting president, Petro, he's the first left-wing president of Colombia, and who is very a heavyweight, right, in Latin America. So Petro and the president of Argentina, Fernandez, and also Bolivia, and I think also Chile, but I'm not sure about Chile. and I think there are others. The Christmas holidays kind of put a delay on other countries, but there may be others. And so you have, and of course, Lula da Silva, who's I think a couple of days away from
Yeah,
regaining.
he's nearly in office now, isn't he? So I mean,
Yeah,
he could really start pulling some strings there when he gets in there, couldn't he?
yeah. I mean, Lula has been always supportive, and he, I think he even made some. Yeah, he did a video saying that Julian deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, calling on the UK to release him, on the US to drop the charges. So he's been very, very outspoken on this case, but he's also committed himself going into the presidency to keep urging Julian's release. And we've seen a couple of other major developments. So Julian was also selected as a finalist for the European Union's Sakharov Prize. The Sakharov Prize, of course, is kind of the peak freedom of thought and human rights award that the EU has to offer. And he made the short list of 3 alongside the Colombian Truth Commission and the people of Ukraine. Now, the people of Ukraine won the prize, but as a finalist, I was invited to represent Julian at the European Parliament this month, sorry. And I was able to hold, high level meetings with politicians. And this was a huge deal, because it enabled me to engage with, European Parliament officials that otherwise paid no attention. And actually, after several of the meetings, these European parliamentarians said, "Oh, I had no idea this was what this was about. You know, I'll sign petitions or whatever. I didn't understand it." So that's been incredibly positive. And then in Australia, the Prime Minister is now openly saying that he is urging the US to find a way to end this prosecution. So, I mean, to say I'm optimistic is a little bit, it is an overstatement, but I do see movement which makes me feel very hopeful that we're finally reaching a stage where the public outcry is having an effect. But obviously, we have to continue to build this public outcry, because the only time Julian will only be released at the point where the public outcry is loud enough. And we're not there yet, but we are building support, we're building solidarity, and there's a lot of I think, awareness across different parts of society. And all this, of course, is due to the grassroots mobilization that has put pressure on politicians to engage, put pressure on politicians to actually nominate Julian for the Sakharov Prize, for example, or get things on into the media. The UK is still a bit of a challenge, but actually just today, there was the BBC Radio 4's Today program had Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe as a guest editor, and Zaghari-Ratcliffe, who of course was a hostage in Iran, a political prisoner, was released last year. She has been a supporter of Julian's freedom ever since she was released. She was at that 8th of October Hands Around Parliament protest, and she invited me to do a segment for her Today program. So that's available online if you want to catch it. The theme was the effect of prison visits on children, and the last thing that I think has made a big difference this year, I put it in the chat, are the 2 books that have been published. One is Niels Meltzer, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture's book, The Trials of Julian Assange. And the other one is Stefania Marizzi's book, which is, the link is in the chat. And these two books are really really important because they dissect the political persecution that Julian has been subjected to, not just since his imprisonment in Belmarsh, but the 9 years that preceded Julian's imprisonment in Belmarsh, that basically created a political climate in which he could be persecuted and in which his political capital was attacked in order to achieve his imprisonment. So it is this kind of in-depth analysis from authoritative sources. Stefania Marizzi has won 3 major investigative prizes in Italy for this book, and it's just come out in English. And it's based on documents, internal documents from the UK and Swedish governments that she acquired through freedom of information requests and through litigation. And so she's been able to reconstruct the conspiracy between the authorities to put Julian in prison.
Right. Well, we thank you for putting those in the links. We'll in the chat. We'll the links in the chat. I mean, but I have to say you've been very pivotal to the turnaround in for example, my activism. I mean, you've really pushed me to try and get more people out, and you know, it's credit to you as well. And I was just thinking, you know, Mandela was in prison for a long time, and I can imagine this is almost the same scale as Mandela, and the kind of oppression that people had to overcome for that. And I think it gives me a lot of hope when you say all those people in Latin America and the Australians and these books and the number of people coming out. It makes me feel that the tide's turning, and I hope that you'll be able to come on again when we have our next circle, but this time around the M25. Is that possible?
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Why not? Thank you, Stella, and great to see you, and solidarity from everyone on the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Crispin, and Happy New Year.